Okay, today I'm attempting to change out the evaporator core in my 2011 Ford F150. I'm making this video because I feel sorry for you if you are attempting to do this as I am. I will probably need to start a GoFundMe page once this is over to replace all the damage I'm probably going to do. No, but seriously, there's not many videos out there. I'm going to try to help y'all out and show you what I'm doing to try to get in here to this plenum and get all this junk out. That being said, here we go. Okay, so I'm starting in on the passenger side. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to this seat. I'm going to take this bolt out here. I've set this seat back so I can really see these bolts get to them. So when I get to the back bolts, I'm just going to slide the seat back forward, pop out the back two bolts, and then there will be a little connection here for the electric seats. I don't know if that's going to help y'all out, if it's going to focus. There we go. So just that connector there, we're going to disconnect that. We're going to yank this whole seat out of here, and then we're going to go to the driver's side and do the same thing. That'll get us in here to this console. Okay, so I have my 4 bolts out. All I've done is I've just reclined the seat back, just laid it back into. I have a crew cab, so it makes it easier. If you do not have a crew cab, you have to do this while it's sitting up. But for video's sake, it's easier to lay it back, show you this connection. You'll be pushing in on this tab, this black tab right in front of the silver. So you'll be pushing here and pulling here. So I'll do that at the same time. Try to do this while I'm doing video, and that'll pop up. Okay, so that comes up, and then this whole thing will disconnect. So that's how you disconnect under the seat, and then we'll move on to undoing the seat belt. Okay, so what I've done, I've removed the 4 bolts holding the seat in, undid the latch, and all I have done, since I have a crew cab, I've just pushed that seat all the way back into the crew cab, which just gives me all this space. So it gives me access to the center console, which you can see one of the bolts there we're going to have to be taken out, and then we'll be popping these panels off, and eventually we're going to take this whole console, we'll shove it into the back as well. So now I'm fixing to go to the passenger side, remove that seat. Okay, so now I have both the driver's and passenger seat back into the extended cab out of the way. I'm going to start working on getting this console out of the way, so I'm going to start right here. There is a bolt right here. I already got a 8mm on it. By the way, these seats were 15mm. But I'm going to take this 8mm screw out. There's one on the driver's side and on the passenger side. So I'll pop them out, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, I'm over on the passenger side now. Just got the other console bolt out. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move up to this front little plastic piece. I'm just kind of wedge my fingers in there and start popping stuff out. Come out pretty easy. So I'm just going to keep working my way up. And then there's a little hook on the back side of this. So you just want to, once you kind of get it loose, you want to pull it back to you, and that'll come on out. And it'll be the same on the passenger side. Okay, once again, we're back on the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to pop off this little plastic thing. I'll wedge my fingers in here and just kind of, if I can get my fingers to wedge in there and hold the camera at the same time. There we go. And pop that out. I'm going to work my way up, popping it, and look at there. That one fell right on out for me. I'm just going to throw that in my seat. And I didn't show you on the other side, but there's a little black bolt right here. There's one on each side. We'll go ahead and knock them 2 out as well. Okay, so here we have the rear bolts, passenger and driver side, out of the center console. We're going to work our way to start removing up here by the cup holders, getting this up and out of the way so that we can continue to remove the center console. What we're going to have to do here, the easiest way to do this, go ahead and put the shifter into drive or manual, and that'll give you room to clear the knob when we start popping up. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed with the yeah, it's telling me bad battery because I have it kind of disconnected. So where this little lip is, all we're going to do is we're going to pull up on that, and that just frees all this up right here. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side where that little lip is. I'm just going to grab that little lip, I'm going to pick up, and you see how that whole thing just really came out pretty easy. So you're going to lift up and pull straight back, and back to the back seat we go with that. And then we'll just put it back in park, and then I'll show you where we go from here. Okay, so what we have now, got the center cup holder and everything popped out of the way. You got 2 bolts in here. You got 8mm bolts there. We'll pop them dudes out, and I'll pick the video back up from there. By the way, this is a great time to clean your truck. Looks like I got some nice dip spit or something down in there from a previous owner, so it's always lovely when you're cleaning up someone else's mess. But hey, we do what we do for the things we love. It beats walking, hey? Okay, so from here, we've removed the cup holder section. So now what we're going to do, we got to remove this armrest. And there are 3 screws. I don't know if you can see them right here. Right there, there, and there, anyway. So 3 Torx screws. I'm using a T27 Torx driver. I'm going to take those 3 screws out, and we'll set this armrest to the side, and then we'll work on from there. Okay, so I've removed the armrest out of the way, and all I did was just reach back here and grabbed this top piece and just popped it up, and it comes up fairly easily. What it's going to do is it's going to hook in towards the front here. So as you raise this up, you want to bring your hand underneath and just kind of push up right there, and that'll free that whole deal up. And there again, it's easier to get it back in neutral to get this out. So I'm gonna move it back into driver neutral. This will pop right on out. Okay, so at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the shift linkage from the shift knob, and all you're gonna do, and I've already got it loose so that I could record it at the same time, but you'll see it right here. And all I did was grab, and you're gonna have a little resistance. It's not gonna pop off that easy. Like I said, I kind of loosened it up already for the video's sake. You're just gonna pull on that pretty good, and it's gonna pop right out. And the next thing you'll need to do, come back to the top side. You're gonna want to grab your flathead screwdriver again, and I'm gonna grab a light so I can try to make this more visible for you. So what you're going to want to do is right here is a release to pick this shift knob up out of the housing. So I'm going to do that, try to do that and video at the same time. A little harder with one hand, 2 hands, you shouldn't really have any problems. So I'm just kind of pushing from the front side and pushing it back towards the dash with one hand. I prefer to use 2. I'm gonna have to use 2. But anyway, so with one hand controlling that, and the other hand lifting, that will pop on out pretty easy. I'm just not good enough to do it with one hand. So I popped up that little lever for the shift link, and I slid the whole console straight back, and you can see there's a wiring harness that's still connected here, and this is on the passenger side now. So it just comes right in here, and we'll just disconnect those, and console will be ready to move on back out of the way. Okay, so what we have now is I've disconnected the wiring harness, and I've just slid the console all the way to the back. So basically everything, driver's seats, console, that were up in the front are now sitting back into the back of the crew cab, giving me full access to the entire front of the vehicle. Alright, so now I'm going to start disassembling around the radio, AC controls, all that. And what I'm going to start on is I'm going to remove, there's a 7mm bolt here, and then one opposite side. And then I'm going to start popping this material up. And I'll show you when I get to that point. Okay. So I got the two 7mm bolts out. And all I did was just start working this up and just pop free all the way up here towards the top. And then I'm just going to come, I'm not going to take it all the way out yet because there are some bolts holding it at the top. I'm going to pop over onto this side and just pull straight out on that and just start working it up as well until I get it pretty much loose right there at the top. Okay, then I'm going to work my way up here to this pad. And there's a pad up here. I don't know if I'll be able to get it with my hands. I'll get my little screwdriver. It's just a little rubber pad. And we're going to pop that out. And then there's going to be a couple bolts behind here that's going to help start taking out this center stuff as well. Okay, little rubber pieces out. And there's our two bolts right up here on the top. And we'll just take those out. There again, two 7mm bolts. So we'll just work those out. Okay, those two bolts are out. All I'm going to do is just grab this, and it's going to just pop straight forward, just like that. And now that these side panels are loose, I'll be able to just keep pulling that, and it's going to work straight on out. I'll go ahead and grab two hands to better control this, but then I'm just going to reach back here and I'm going to start undoing the plugs and just continue to work this on out. Okay, so I got a good start on this center coming out. I'm going to reach down here at the bottom right up under the radiator. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Just pull straight out. This thing will pop straight on out of there. Okay, so quick update where I'm at. I just, like I said, I was wedging out the center radio. Went ahead and unplugged everything. The hardest thing to unplug was the cigarette adapter, just because it was further down in there. But once you, that bottom one really kind of holds on, that little keeper. So if you were to pull that out, you know, you'll have room to then work with this cigarette outlet. And from there, the left panel really loosened on up. So I just kind of worked around the cluster panel trim, and it just comes right on out. So as of right now, got all that set to the side, and we'll go for it. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is there is a bracket right here on each side, has two 8mm bolts. I'm gonna remove both of those. Okay, got my bolts, 8mm bolts out of my brackets, passenger and driver side. What I'm gonna do now on the passenger side, I'm going to take this cover here, I'm just going to pull out, pop that joker on out, just like so. Set it to the side, and now I'm going to remove these two bolts here. Okay, got those two 15mm bolts out of here. Now I'm going to go over to the driver. Okay, just like we did on the passenger side, we're also going to do on the driver's side. We're going to take this cover and pop that dude off. And we'll discard that. And now we're going to remove, go away glare, 1, 2, 3 15mm bolts. Okay, got those three 15mm bolts out. What we're going to do now is we're going to move up onto the dash here. And there's some panels. If you can wedge your hand down in there, you should be able to pop right out. There's one. And there'll be one over here on the passenger side. Pop that dude out. Just like that. And there's some 13mm bolts in there. And I don't know if I'll be able to get the camera in there to see it. So, I think it's 2 on one side, 3 on the other. So we'll remove those bolts. Okay, to give you a better view of the bolts, I am on the outside of the vehicle. I'm shining the light down into here, into that little place where we just took them out. There's 2 of your bolts right there, and then the other 3 will be on the opposite side down in that hole. So they're kind of down in there. So that's why I wanted to try to show you that. so you wouldn't just be guessing where those were. They are down in there, so I need an extension to reach those. Okay, here I am on the passenger side looking through the windshield down through the dash. You can see this other 13mm down in there. I said that I thought it was 3 and 2. It's actually 2 on the driver's side, 1 on the passenger side. So we're going to remove those. Okay, got the 15mm bolts out. This is what I'm using, 3/8 drive with a 15mm. That's about a 6-inch extension, so that's how far down they are inside that dash. And I am going to tell you, those have been the worst 3 so far, and air ratchet would have done wonders there. Or if you happen to have a busted windshield, that would be the perfect time to get to those 3 bolts after that window is pulled, because that was pretty bad. I do not look forward to going back with those 3. Alright, so moving on, I'm about to remove the glove box. I'm going to unplug some plugs in there, and then also I'm going to unplug some plugs on the steering column and unplug or do a undo a bolt there. And when I get to that point, I'll pick the video back. So all I'm doing is, since I've only got one hand recording, I went ahead and all you have to do is just on your glove box, just push in on these 2 sides of your glove box, one left hand on left side, right hand on right side, and you squeeze in towards the center, and then this whole thing will just fold down like this, and you'll have access. You see the green, the gray, and the blue plugs. There's a couple more in there we may end up having to unplug as we go, but I do know we'll go ahead and just unplug those dudes so we can start getting ready to pull the dash. So we'll unplug those, and then I'll get to the driver. Okay, the steering wheel, I'm going to come underneath right above the brake pedal here, and you'll see I'm going to try to get it where you can see it, the knuckle right there for the steering column. And that bolt right there is a 10mm bolt. We're going to undo that, and that will allow the steering shaft to come out. So we're going to get that done. Okay, got the 10mm bolt out from the steering knuckle. Now I'm going to start removing this plastic step piece and this left corner piece there, and also on the right corner. I'm going to pop those out. If I see anything crazy about how to get those out, and I'll put that in on the videos. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. This just pops right up and out of the way, and this corner piece you just pop out from the top, and just kind of work it around the little hood release latch there, and it comes right on out as well. And now I'm going to move to the right side and okay, by the hood latch, after I get that panel out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and remove these 3 plugs right here. So we'll take those out of our ways as well, and then I'll move to the passenger. Okay, passenger side, I popped up that little step guard there, and then pulled this panel straight out just like on the driver's side, and we should be getting ready to pull the dash. Okay, I'm going to remove these 4 8mm bolts there, center of the console, right where the ductwork comes. Back to the passenger side, I'm going to go ahead and remove these plugs here. They look like they may be attached, not the pink ones, but the black wires here. I'll go ahead and unplug those. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these plastic trim pieces on the driver's side and the passenger side. The passenger side has those little clips. We can pop them out of the way and get those bolts out and remove that plastic trim. Okay, for the left trim, all I did was worked my finger up at the top of the connection there and started pulling out on this trim, and it just pops straight out. And when you get to that point, it's just going to slide up and out just like that. And then we'll move to the passenger side. Okay, for the passenger side, all I did was I just took a flathead screwdriver, and these covers, just got in here on the top side and just barely pry, and they pop right on out. They got a little thing that holds on to them. That did that for both of them. And there are 2 7mm bolts that holds that on. So we'll just take. Okay. So after getting those 2 bolts out, those 2 7mm, I just left them in there and put the plug back in there so I don't lose them. I just reach up here and pull that out. It snaps out and pulls up just like the driver's side. Okay, back to the driver's side. The next thing I'm going to do is this cable right here. See if I can hold the light and the phone and show you at the same time. This cable right here is your brake release lever. So we're going to take that out, or we're just going to unhook it from here, and we're going to unhook it from this plastic piece here. We're just going to pop that up and out and see where. Okay, so I missed one earlier. We pulled these 3 bolts here, but hiding back in there, right there, there's a 4th bolt. So we got to pull that one out. Then the dash should come on out. Okay, so this was the Frankenstein I used to get that last 13mm bolt out of there. I got a again 3/8 drive ratchet, 6-inch extension attached to another 6-inch extension with a 3/8 swivel, and then the 13mm socket, and got that out, and the dash is all but just falling out. Okay, back on the passenger side, I have the dash loose, and I went ahead and disconnected the antenna wire, which it just slides right out, and now I have this wire here, and it looks like there's a tab that I should be able to push, pull. Okay, so that's what I did. I just pulled up on that tab, and it pulled loose. I have where it was connected in here, and then I have these two or three other connectors down here that I said I was going to pull, and I never got around to it, so I'm going to pull those now, and the dash will be okay. For the bottom 3 plugs on my passenger side, there's one that's a little bit different. This little black plug right here will have this little silver clip, and all you're going to do is when it's plugged in, you're just going to take that silver clip, you're going to push it towards the rear, or actually towards the firewall, and this will pop right on out. Just one of them crazy ones. And now the dash is completely free. Okay, I'm back where the radio was. I'm taking this wiring harness here that was still connected, pulling that out. I'm going to have to work around the back side and pull it on out until it's free. Okay, see if I can get this to focus for me. Trying to hold the light, the phone, and show you with the other hand. So, where we're at now, bear with me. Okay, where we're at now, we're back in the radio box, and there is, I'm just reaching my hand from underneath this little plastic thing right here that just snaps to this frame under here. I can't really get a good picture of it for you, but there's a frame underneath here that you'll see it's just hooked to. It's got 2 little lips. You just push it, and that wiring harness disconnects right there, and I'm going to continue to play with that wire until I get it free. Everything is okay. Now what I've done is I just had the dash loose, and I've just opened the glove box, and I'm just unclicking all the wires from all these little tabs and popping all the tabs out, freeing up that one little harness so I can get everything out. Okay, what I'm actually going to do, instead of undoing all these clips, I'm going to take that wire. It comes all the way back to the center console. If you lift this up, you see some kind of little amplifier or something in here, some kind of module control, whatever. Restraints module control. I'm going to unhook that wire right there and then pull that out, and that one wire is what's holding my whole dash from coming. Okay, still fighting this one stinking harness. I've gotten the entire dash loosened up in about 3.5 to 4 hours, and this one freaking wire has been fighting me for the last 30-45 minutes. Absolutely absurd. I have figured out what these jokers at Ford have done just to tick us poor little people off, weekend warriors, is they have stuck a tab underneath here, and I don't know that I can get the angle, but anyway, there's a tab underneath there, and it's just electrical taped to that tab. So instead of breaking the tab, because that's what's going to happen if I keep pulling on it, I'm going to just cut the electrical tape off the tab, and then when I go back in with the wire, I will just tape it back to the tab, and save everybody out there a good 45 minutes of your lives. You're welcome. Okay, so I finally got this last wiring harness loose, and daggone, you people at Ford ought to be freaking ashamed of yourselves for this one. So what my whole deal was is there was one tab over here that we unscrewed, popped out, no problem. But what the comedians at Ford decided to do was to put another one underneath the ductwork. So I had to pull all this back underneath the ductwork where you can't get to it without pulling ductwork. So what did I do? I said, screw you people at Ford and your sorry engineering for putting one freaking piece of plastic to hold in one harness instead of having to undo the entire wiring harness in a dash. So I said, screw y'all, and I broke that one piece, and I said, I ain't gonna fight with that kind of garbage. And you know, hey Ford, I've done great this whole time, hadn't lost my temper once, and y'all sorry jokers, y'all just pushed me too far with some ignorance like that. So when you get to this point, you may just want to pull your carpet back, take you a flathead screwdriver, and just pry that dang thing out of your way to free up this one harness so your dash come out. Shame on you people at Ford. Y'all, somebody needs to be slapped. That's all I got. Whoever put that tab in there, shame on you. Okay, so my dash is slid back out of the way. I'm going to start working on this plenum. And I'm just going to take a few of these bolts out. I just want to pry in there and see what all it's going to tell for me to get that evaporator out. And hopefully I won't have to pull the entire plenum out, but I fear I may. Okay, so for the plenum, I've removed, or loosened rather, this nut here. And this part just slides back out of the way. And then there was one other nut here that has a holder that keeps it in there, and that just bolted right to the top of the firewall. And I have one hose here I didn't mention when I popped off the dash. Just goes right over here to this little tube here. And now we're going to the engine side and remove the heater core hoses and AC lines. Okay, so I've pinched off the heater hose lines. We don't have to drain the whole coolant system. And then we're going to remove one bolt right there on the AC line. And then you see the bolt right above, or the nut rather, right above that. I'm going to remove that one. And then there will be 3 more nuts that we're going to have to remove. Okay, so under the dash, behind the battery, getting to the firewall, there's one nut there, and then coming back over, we took the one out for the AC system, so that's that one, and then we're going to remove that nut there, and I think the next one is right there, I think. Looks like a bolt from the other side, so I'm not sure about that one. Anyway, we'll remove those other two and see where we are from there. Okay, so I'm going to remove the 2 bolts to this bracket and go ahead and get it out of the way, and should be able to pull this thing out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this orange wire here, this is the antenna, and it is connected to the plenum with these little keepers here. So all these wires, this wire cluster, I'm going to disconnect that from the plenum, and should be able to pop it on out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is unbolt that there, and that bracket will take all the wires off, and then I'll pull this wire off so I can get to where I can see it. Pull that wire out of this hole, and then I'll pop that loose from that hole, and I just worked the rest of that out, and I will disconnect on around until all that's free. Okay, so it's 2 8mm right there. That took away that cluster, that connection there. Come underneath, I had another connection. Let me find it in the video. Right here, and then there's a plug that goes to the fan. I'll disconnect that plug. Okay, so at this point, this wiring harness is coming around. I'm going to disconnect right there, and then I'm going to unhook that plug right there, and everything should be loose. Okay, so first I'm going to remove the blower, top part of this blower, this little bird cage looking thing. Move all these 8mm bolts all the way around and pick that up off of there, and then we'll just see what we have to loosen up to get it to pop up. Okay, so just pulled the heater core up out of the way, and just looking to see what other bolts we can find. I do see one 8mm here. Try pulling that. We'll go ahead and slide this wire here. Slide this wire here out of the way, or be very careful when I take the top off, because I know that's hooked to the. Okay, for this piece, little harness here, I'm just going to take a flathead screwdriver, get underneath there, and pry that down like that, and then I'll be able to pull it forward like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I got all the bolts out that have come out, and if you notice on the bottom of the plenum, you see where they got, it looks like little plastic studs that are holding the top pieces together. So you're not going to be able to take it loose. I guess this is their attempt to try to get you to buy the entire plenum for it in their infinite wisdom. So what I'm doing is I'm saying forget that, and I'm taking this razor and I'm just cutting away that. It's hard to do this one-handed and trying to film, but I'm cutting that away like that, and that'll free up the top piece and the bottom piece. That'll free that up. And what they do is they were at least nice enough to leave you a hole, so if you want to go buy your own 8mm bolts, so that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go grab some more 8" by, looks like 3/4, ½ inch, 3/4 inch bolts or screws, and I'm going to put them in these slots that they had next to it that were vacant. I guess Ford decided they were going to go cheap and not put a screw in there, and melt it together instead. So I'm going to cut all those off all the way around, and I'm going to go back with the 8mm screws to take care of that issue. Okay, so what I've done, I've gone all the way around the plenum, and with a razor blade cut the little melted heads off of what looks like little plastic rivets, I guess, going all the way around, and just started prying until I finally got it to pop loose. And there is what we have been after this whole time. It's probably a good 7-8 hours later for me, being that, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and B, don't have nobody to show me what the heck I'm doing. So obviously it looks like it's got a pretty good leak down in there. I think that was definitely my culprit, thank God, because I would not have wanted to have been wrong after coming this far. So there it is, the culprit. 7 hours later, blood, sweat, and not quite tears, but I'll probably cry tonight when I try to go to sleep.